Hey guys, welcome to We Are ACEDS. I know the last time you saw Mike, Mike Quadraro, but I am back and just wanted to share some things with you. If you're part of the ACEDS or if you're part of ACEDS or involved in e-discovery, information governance, data privacy, cybersecurity, you're in the right place. We Are ACEDS is all about showcasing the legal community and the people involved in ACEDS globally. Some quick housekeeping. This is a live stream event and we really want to engage with each of you. So feel free to drop your comments and questions right in the chat. Today's guest will be able to answer you live as well or say hello, whatever you want to do. The video, it will be recorded and shared via our YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, and our LinkedIn channels. So you could always go back and watch it again. So to kick us off today, I'm joined by Dave Ruel, who is the Senior Product Manager at Hanzo and a member of ACEDS since 2014. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Maribel, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you
Excellent.
So much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I wanted to just start off with getting to know you a little bit more. Can you share a bit with our audience about who you are and your role at Hanzo?
Sure. So my name's Dave Ruel, as you mentioned. I'm working at Hanzo. I've been here about, I guess beginning of October, something like that. I lost track of time actually. Moved to Portland, Oregon. So I've been here just over a year, and I was living in Cleveland, Ohio for the past 18 years. So quite a change coming out to Portland. And it's been fantastic. I don't miss the snow, obviously, that we got in Cleveland and the cold weather. So much better here. Joined Hanzo, as I mentioned, and I've really been focused on a new product that we've rolled out, which is connecting to Google Workspace. Traditionally Hanzo was, connecting with Slack, which obviously a ton of people use. And then recently we've been introducing Google Workspace. So I'm focused kind of 100% on that environment and working with Google Workspace.
So I want to touch on that a bit, but I want to go back to that. You just joined Hanzo in October.
Yeah.
You just moved to Portland. And I think when I was reading a little bit about your spotlight on the Hanzo blog, what kind of hit me was that you moved all in the middle of the pandemic, started a new job in the middle of the pandemic. I want to know a little bit more about how that all, dealing with all of that, because there's a lot of stress. People are feeling it to start a new job, to get up and move to a new place when we're all on lockdown, we're in a quarantine, all kinds of stuff is going on. How was that for you?
Looking back, it was completely insane. I'm not sure I would do it again, but it was actually just kind of right on the cusp of the pandemic last year. So we moved the third week of January in 2020, and so that was all fine, except we drove from Cleveland to Portland in the wintertime. So that was interesting, dragging a trailer, a small RV with us as well. So really fun experience there. I took a job with a Portland-based company here, and COVID really started to hit. It started kind of creeping up, and we saw that kind of happening. And then it hit kind of full on. I think for everyone, really. I think right around St. Patrick's Day of last year is when the lockdowns were happening here in Portland, and unfortunately, I got caught up in a COVID layoff. And so you talk about stress. I moved out here. I'd been here just a short 4 months, I think, when that happened. And so now I'm put into a position of, okay, gosh, I'm out here. I'm not going to go back and got to look for a new job. Right. So I took another role and unfortunately lost that one too. And then came to Hanzo. And the interesting part was really, if I back up a little bit, I had spoken to Brad Harris here at Hanzo very early on. And they just weren't in a position at that point where they were hiring product managers. So, we had spoken and I kind of knew that they were, on the lookout at some point, maybe in 2020. And finally, everything kind of fell into position and I picked up the role in October.
How is it getting to know, right? We're in a pandemic, everybody's working from home. I know how is it getting to know your teammates? Now everything has to be virtually. You can't really meet anybody in person and really get to bond. So how is that going?
That's right. Well, it was surprisingly good. I mean, the early on, I think it was a lot of people were trying to learn how the Zoom meetings and all that stuff were going to go and all of that. And you're right, it's a real challenge because, when you start, when I started with the company I moved out here for, it was all face-to-face, right? I walked into the office like most people did, met people face-to-face, had face-to-face meetings. And, it was interesting after that because then it hit and everything was virtual, through Zoom. The company in the center, I'd really, there were only maybe 5 or 6 employees. So that was easy to get to know everybody. Hanzo's a little bit different, not to mention the fact that, most of our development team is in the UK. And so I would never probably meet those folks face to face anyway. So, this is the way today, how most people meet and get to know each other. The local Portland team here, obviously we haven't met face to face either. So there is just this kind of learning experience that everyone's gone through to try to learn what's going on. And, the culture is different, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
But, I think it's just, you have to adapt to these things and learn to grow through this and try to figure out, where your teammates, where they play, where, whether they affect your team or don't affect your team. But yeah, it's obviously challenging, but, the onboarding process at Hanzo has been fantastic. And, we had enough space when I hired to be able to meet everybody and have, kind of one-to-one conversations with them. So it was really, really good as far as the onboarding goes and trying to learn, put faces with names and just try to learn people's roles and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know a few people over there and I think they're absolutely terrific. So I could imagine what the culture is like.
Yeah, the team is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're a product manager. Is that the whole path of your career? How did you get into e-discovery? How did you what made you end up here?
It's a great question. E-discovery found me. I didn't really find e-discovery. So it's really weird, right? I had a 20-year career in the printing industry. Very strange. I mean, you don't put those two together at all, right? But around 2008, I decided it was time for kind of a career change for me. So, my growth path had really slowed down a lot in printing and the place I was working. You learn new things once in a while, but it takes a really short amount of time to pick it all up again, and you're just right back where you were. So I decided to really, change career paths. And so I was looking for more of a project management role. And so, obviously doing the search in the local Cleveland market and stumbled upon this company called Inventus. And Inventus was a service provider. We were multi-city service provider. Interviewed there, and the role sounded interesting, sounded challenging. And what I was looking for was I wanted something completely different from what I was doing. And so it was that.
Yeah.
And so
I
absolutely. So I dropped in and, looking back on it, I think, being at a service provider was an amazing experience because you get a really broad sense of the entire legal market. As far as, documents and having to do what most service providers do, you're indexing data and you're providing the exports and all of that stuff to support the entire e-discovery process. And so I think that was a really great stepping stone for me because it gave me a great background into, the entire e-discovery world. So that was it. That was the genesis of the entire thing.
So what aspects of e-discovery, given the path that you've taken, do you like the most?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love being where I am now in product. Being in a service provider, it's obviously really challenging. The amount of work, the volume of work that you have to do. There's a lot of time pressure in that world. I have always really enjoyed, and in my printing career, I was a product manager as well. And that process of being able to visualize a future product or a future feature that will help the community is really powerful. And I've always loved that. I love that part of it. And so being a product manager, you get to kind of set the path for how people are interacting with not only the data, but your product. And so that part to me, I really love. I mean, it's a huge challenge, obviously, but it's an aspect of the job that I really like. And I was working the company in Cleveland that I was a product manager at as well. It was fantastic being able to just shape that and look forward and say, hey, this is the way that I think it's going to really help the industry and change things. And, being able to do that, it's rare to be able to do that. And it's something I really love doing.
That's awesome. And I love that you said, being able to give back in a different way, right? It's not just about giving back like through a nonprofit or anything else, but really building something that will help your clients or the end users or the people you work with. So I love that you shared that.
Right.
So you said something about coming into an industry is challenging, but you like the learning part of all of that. Mm-hmm. For someone coming into the industry, like what would you share with them? Like what would you share with them about, trying a whole new industry, especially like e-discovery and information governance and this whole universe that we're in?
Right. I mean, I would probably say be a sponge if you can. Take in as much as you can. I mean, everyone's going to have a role, right? You're going to have a role to play in the company that you're in. But for me, obviously, I had that role. I was lucky enough to have the opportunities because Adventus needed, I started in one role and they needed people in other roles. And so I was there and I was able to basically, we had Clearwell. And I knew nothing about that platform at all. And one day, my boss came to me and said, "You're the Clearwell guy. We need somebody to train. We need somebody to do that." Right. So, I mean, there are certain people who will pick that up and run with it. There are certain people who won't. That's fine. Right. I love that. I love that challenge. And I love picking those things up. Educate yourself. There's a lot of great content out there. ACEDS is great for this, obviously. If you really want to learn about what's going on in the industry, sign up for, getting newsletters and getting blogs and just really, really educate yourself and be a sponge, because there are some really cool things going on in this industry. Things that, you never hear about. You don't normally hear about big data in the context of legal, unless you're in this little world that we live in, right? You're not going to see this type of thing on CNN or some site, unless there's a big lawsuit or some case that's going on that's public. But my gosh, there's such great stuff that is going on, especially around big data, compliance, data privacy, right? Stuff that is happening right now that our industry is really challenged with, and we're tackling it. It's really great. Yeah.
So you said read blogs, go out there, educate yourself. So who are your top 3 favorite bloggers that you follow on a regular basis?
Oh my gosh. So obviously, I read ACEDS. I get a lot of information just coming in from Legal Tech News. So Zach Warren and the folks over at Legal Tech News. So, I look at information there. I'm actually on the blog sites for a lot of the companies that are out there, people like Relativity and things like that, because, they're trendsetters. They're out doing a lot of the work. They're obviously, the content is really good as well. So, those are the types of sources I go to, just pick some of the industry leaders and just go sign up for, getting newsletters or blogs from them. So, I get a lot of information from a lot of sources, that's for sure.
Well, that's good, because then you have different opinions, different perspectives, and that helps you as a product manager. It probably helps you anyway on a day-to-day, just thinking about, okay, these are all the different perspectives that I'm seeing. So how do I implement this into some of the things that I'm doing? Right.
I mean, keeping up is a challenge, sometimes, because there's a lot of roller coaster rides, I think, in legal tech. Everyone rallies around kind of legal tech, in February. So there's usually a lot of announcements, and there's a lot going on, and everyone is, really staging everything to try to get ready for that. So there's always this big burst of information that's happening right around legal tech. And then it trickles off a little bit, and then, you get more peaks along the way. But you're absolutely right. I mean, keeping up with what's going on in the industry, it's huge for us, obviously, as a product manager. One of the challenges you have is always looking ahead. So staying ahead and looking ahead and seeing kind of, where the industry is going, it's important.
So you have been a member of ACEDS since 2014.
Correct.
How did you find ACEDS? why did you find ACEDS?
So
And
that is,
you're certified also. And so
yeah.
as a product manager, you know, I do know a few product managers, but not all of them out there that I know of who work in e-discovery get their certification. So it'd be awesome for me to understand like what spurred that on as well.
Oh, that's a great question. So when I was working for a service provider, you know, I was doing kind of the loading of data, indexing, training people on a platform. And, you know, as I did that, I started reaching out to more people. You know, I was you know, having face-to-face meetings and doing more training and just meeting more people. And obviously, you know, using a social platform or going to LinkedIn and saying, hey, let's link in. I started seeing this ACEDS thing at the back of people's names, right? And it's one of those things that you're like, oh, what is that? You know, so I got on and obviously started doing research, and I'm like, okay, there are not too many certifications for this industry, right? And so I started thinking, you know, career-wise, you know, you don't know where you're going to go, you don't know where you're going to end up in many cases. And I was looking at the time, I wasn't at that point really looking to make a jump. But I thought this could be incredibly valuable for me, not only for the company, because people are working with you as a project manager, and they see ACEDS and they say, oh, this person is certified. You know, it raises the bar a little bit. Right. And it was super important. And so I started looking at those people. I'm like, wow, these people have this. This is something I'm going to look into. So I started, you know, I looked into it. I said, oh man, should I do this? And I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. I need to do it. I think it's really important, not only for the company, it will be personal growth for me, you know, throughout. And so if I do switch jobs, you have that term behind your name, ACEDS, right? Yeah. And so it's super important. And, you know, that was really how it started. So I got all my materials, I signed up, and I'm sure this is true for everyone. I just couldn't take the test, right? So this just kept happening where, you know, I delayed it, and then I delayed it again because you got really busy, and I couldn't, you know, I couldn't study, and I couldn't do what I thought was preparing well enough. And finally, I just said, no, I can't keep doing this. So I need to finally take the test, and I did, and I passed, and it was fantastic. So
you passed the first time.
Passed the first time.
Okay. And after putting it off.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you know, that's procrastination is one of those things people are really good at, and you know, the follow through was it was worth every second of it though. I mean, it was really hard, and I realized after the fact, you know, you don't know going into this. You know, some people are like, oh, it's really hard. Some people are like, it's not really hard. You don't know until you take it, and then you know, I took it, and it's not easy to do. And the part for me that was difficult was, as a service provider working mainly in you know, the Midwest, there were a lot of things, you know, that were on the test that you would never touch. We didn't care about privacy at that point. It wasn't something that we dealt with, but there were questions about that. And so, you know, I studied up on that, but it's still not the same when you're taking that test, right? And so obviously I'd studied enough, so I was able to pass it, but it is challenging. And, you know, it's not, it means something, which I think is really important. You know, the people that take it, the people that have passed it, they know, you know, you studied hard for that. You took it, you passed it. It is important. And it's great. So, yeah.
So given all of that, I mean, it sounds like you've had an awesome career so far. What is like one of your most favorite moments in e-discovery? Do you have one?
So one really, so I saw that question, and one always sticks out to me. Obviously there's all the legal tech, you know, when you're at the conference, there's always things going on. There's always memorable moments. My memorable moment was my third day on the job. And remember, this was a completely new industry for me.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from a very angry client. And we had done a production that did not match his specification. And at that point in time, I didn't even know what the specification was. I wasn't sure what was going on. The team had put this together. I'm like, okay. I took the call. He was extremely angry. And he said, you know, your entire company and your team are a bunch of bleeping idiots. And basically hung up on me. And so my takeaway was, what is going on here? What is this industry about? I don't understand this. No one's ever said something like that to me. I don't understand this. So that was my one takeaway from 3 days in, you know, like, you know, pull up your pants and, put on your big boy britches and go do this thing, right? You gotta figure this out. And so went back to the team and, we figured it out. So it was a challenge. It was very interesting to have that happen. But that was early on in the career. And, the moments I think, of doing really great trainings and having really good sessions with clients, those always stick out to me as well. But that one point that just was a complete reset 3 days into my job was really interesting.
So given that sometimes we get consumed with a lot of work in e-discovery. There's always something, there's always deadlines. It's a fast moving, there's always something new to learn. When you have free time, what are the things that you like to do?
So I'm a big outside kind of person. Love being outside. So, one of the great things about moving to the Pacific Northwest was obviously complete change from where I used to live. I grew up in Ohio. And so, hey, we have mountains out here. This is fantastic. So I've always been kind of an outdoor enthusiast. So I like mountain biking and hiking, just getting outside. So this has been really great. Even with the pandemic, the state parks started to open out here. So, the lockdown was hard, as it has been for everyone. But being able to get outside is really, really great. So, going up to Mount Hood, and I got to snowboard a couple of days ago for the first time in a couple of years. And that was really fun. And obviously being on a big mountain instead of a little hill is also really cool. So that's the stuff I really like doing.
So we do have a question from Sheila Grella, who is—
Hi, Sheila.
Sheila is awesome. I don't know if no one knows Sheila, you need to get to know Sheila. She's freaking awesome. So Sheila asked, and this goes back to a question before about meeting people. And she said, what do you share with new people? So I'm assuming that means like when you meet new people in e-discovery, like what do you share with them?
Normally the first thing I'm asking about is what position do you have? What do you do in the industry, right? So try to get a conversation. I like to know what they're doing and try to, kind of figure out, in the EDR model and the e-discovery, what are they doing? What kind of work are they in? And then, kind of do a Q&A with people. I like going back and forth and asking, what do you do? And then try to educate if there's anything in the area that they have questions with. I always try to educate. And not everyone is, touching all parts of EDRM, obviously, right? So some people are maybe only doing the production or the review, and they're not going into preservation, and they're not on the left side of that EDRM model. So I always like to ask them, hey, what do you do? And then try to explain what I do, and and try to educate, because I used to be a corporate trainer for a number of years. And so it's in my nature to ask those questions and then just get a dialogue started with people, and do some education as well. And they educate me, it's great. Everyone misses the face-to-face. We miss the conferences. ACEDS Ohio started kind of right as I was leaving Ohio. So my chapter had just gotten off the ground, and it was really fun because, I'm meeting new people that are in Ohio. And that was really good because we used to Zoom up to the Detroit ACEDS. And so it was a different group of people, and we didn't work with those people, really. But the Ohio team, that was a different story because, some of those people were like, wow, they're in our backyard. So I miss the face-to-face, and there's so much great learning that goes on at those face-to-face and events, and, just having a chat over by the Cokes. It's one of those things that I miss for sure. We still take a lot in, obviously, through online, but you feel like the time frames really they're so set a lot of times that you don't get to ask all the questions you really want. So, what is one thing that people don't know about you that we should know about you? I don't know if anyone should know. Well, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I like to know things about people. So I'm one of those people. I get I like to observe. I like to ask questions. I like to know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
What makes them tick?
Yes. Let's see. I love to travel. I was really fortunate. Part of that printing career that I'd spoken about, I was really fortunate to be a corporate trainer, and we were a global company. So I was able to travel. And so I was, my goal was to be in 30 countries by my 30th birthday. And I got to 28. And so it was really interesting to interact with people around the world. to see different cultures and all of that. I love the experience that people get from that. And, I always recommend people, if you get a chance to go to a foreign country and spend any time there at all, do it, because you are going to learn so much about, just everyone else. So that's one thing. I've always loved that. I love traveling, even in the United States. I still, I'm a national park geek. I love seeing our national parks, and part of getting outside it's fantastic. But experiencing the cultures, I think, has really been, it was an eye-opening experience, really young in my career. I remember my very first trip was to Japan for my company. I was not even 21 years old yet when I went to that, to do that. So that is a different experience. I mean, it really does, it changes your mindset 100%. So, again, recommend it. And, if you ever get to deal with other people from other cultures, it's a fantastic experience.
Thank you. What 2 countries are missing off your list? What was 29 and 30?
Oh my gosh. So I've never been, so I've been to 45 now, I believe. So it's expanded. Well, I'm well past my 30s now, but it's expanded. I think I may be at close to 50, 45, something like that. I've never been to South Africa. I would love to go to South Africa. I've never been to New Zealand. I would love to go see New Zealand, and maybe spend more time in China. I've been to China, but I was always working on these trips. So it's really difficult. You see the conference room, or you see the hotel, and you're training people. And so, you didn't always get to do everything you wanted to do. So I would probably spend some more time in China. I've never been to Russia. I wouldn't mind seeing Russia, see Moscow, Sweden, Norway. I've never been there. So there's a bunch that are still out there that I'd love to go see.
That's awesome. Hopefully one day soon you can go back.
I know. I hope all of us can get out and see things.
So last question, and this has been awesome, but last question is, what does it mean to you to be part of ACEDS, to be a member? Yeah.
So I think I touched on this earlier. You never know if that helps you when you're applying for a job, right? Because if you're not with, you're not really talking to the HR manager, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if it helps you. At the end of the day, I think it does. I think having that membership, having those letters behind your name, I think they are really important to people. I know that if I was looking at resumes, I would definitely boil anybody that had an ACEDS cert to the surface, because that they've gone through that certification process and have gone through the education of just studying for the test and going through that. So for me, I mean, it is important. I loved the chapter meetings. So I can't wait to get back to, I was looking at Portland's, this week, and we don't have any events because of obviously lockdown, but to get back into those ACED events, they're really fun. I really like them. The ones that we had were laid back, very, very fun to be at. And so I look forward to that too. And I think the, ACED members, they have a lot to offer. Yeah. So for me, it's been important. That's why I hang on to my membership. And, I think it's super important for people to consider it if you haven't gone through it.
Thank you so much for being a member. And our Ohio chapter is awesome. They just finished their election. So they've got a great group over there, and really nice group of law firm, corporate, and legal vendors. So that's great to see.
I used to work with Linda Wong from that chapter for a number of years. I know her really well. So she's great. Yeah, she is great. Yeah. Well, Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for taking some time out of your day from all your product management work to come and join us. I know you've got some great things in the work. So I was happy to have you with us. Thank you, Maribel. I appreciate it. I really do. No problem. Yeah. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Great to see everybody. I see all the comments going. I'm glad you guys are engaging with us and engaging with each other. That's it for this episode of We Are ACEDS. We'll be back next time with another member of our We Are ACEDS community. If you haven't seen, we've got for the rest of this week, eDiscovery Leaders Live with George Sosha at 11 o'clock on Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. And next Tuesday, Doug Austin joins Kelly Twigger on Case of the Week. And if you haven't seen Case of the Week, I highly recommend it. Kelly goes over an e-discovery decision related to a recent case. And so really good for you guys to tune in.
The other thing I just want to announce is the University of Florida Levin College of Law is doing their UF eDiscovery conference on March 18th. Definitely the registration is now live. So guys, please go in and register for that event. It's going to be great. A lot of terrific favorites that you guys see everywhere and some new faces. And so we hope you can join us there. Until next time, peace, love, and community.